What's up guys, it's Christian Wants to Battle, or you can just call me Christian, and today I have an Elite Four battle against my good friend John, also known as GigaLaser. Now this was my last E4 match due to some unfortunate events, but I wanted to post this because it was my favorite battle, and also I really wanted to showcase this grass team. So I decided to start out with my Venusaur, which is a defensive Venusaur, and I really wanted to get my Mega up as soon as possible to combat things like that Arcanine, but he started out with his Mega Beedrill. And the only Pokemon I have for this is my Ferrothorn, so I switch right out into that, which is also a defensive mon, and it has Iron Barbs and a Rocky Helmet. My whole plan with this Beedrill is to basically whittle it down to the point where it kills itself. I know that sounds pretty morbid, but it is what it is. I really don't have any answers for it. But he goes for the U-turn, which is great because he does take damage, and it's bad because he gets a free switch into Arcanine. So this is where I kind of have to make a decision because I don't have anything for this Arcanine. So I'm looking at my team, looking for the most expendable member, and I go into my Executor, which is a really fun set. It's a special attacking Executor, and it's the only thing that is neutral damage to a fire or a Flare Blitz. So I switch it in hopes that it would take it pretty well. It does decently, but I go straight into the Ancient Power just because I just need this Arcanine to be whittled down to the point where anything can come in and just take it on. But he switches out into Tapu Koko. I guess he was expecting the Draco Meteor or whatever. But yeah, so he goes into Tapu Koko, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go back into my Venusaur because I think that this is the best opportunity I will ever get to Mega Evolve. And so I do just that as he goes for the Dazzling Gleam. So I'm like, okay, I'm in a perfect position. At this point, I was kind of playing on my toes, but now I can relax. So I stay in and I go for the Mega Evolution. At this point, John is freaking out. Like, John is happy because he had time to prep for this team, and he was like, everything's going according to plan. And I was like, oh crap, like I'm playing right into his hand. He goes for the Z move. I'm expecting it to be Z Brave Bird because it's the only thing that could probably hit me, but he goes for the Guardian of Alola, which is interesting to me because it will only do 70% to me. So I'm not really understanding what he's trying to do because he's about to die, honestly, because first of all, again, this isn't gonna kill me no matter what, and I'm gonna go for Sludge Bomb, and that's a dead Koko. So like, I'm sitting here trying to figure out what he's doing, but he's excited. Like, I have no idea what the heck he's doing. He goes out into his Mega Beedrill, and I'm like, I'm not gonna stay in here. So I go out into my Ferrothorn, which ruins his plans because he was like, his idea was to go into his Beedrill and Fell Stinger, kill my Venusaur, and sweep my team. The only reason this wouldn't work is because of Ferrothorn, which I do have. He thought it was dead. I guess he forgot that we just started, but it is what it is. He goes out into his Arcanine as I get my Stealth Rocks up. Now at this point I'm like, well, this Beedrill kind of isn't a huge problem. I mean, obviously it can come in and it still can kind of wreck my team, but as long as I keep this Ferrothorn alive, I'll be good. So I switch out immediately. I go into my Venusaur, which is unfortunate because I was actually saving this Venusaur to come in on the Olomola thing and hopefully synthesis up. But I really didn't have anything to take on this Arcanine, and I was like, well, Venusaur, unfortunately, you gotta go. So he goes for the Will-O-Wisp. I don't know why, but then he goes for the Extreme Speed. I went for the Synthesis and the off chance that he goes for something else, but he doesn't. So that's a dead Venusaur, unfortunately. And I go back into my Order 66. Now here I go again for the Ancient Power because I'm not messing around. And he goes for the Flare Blitz, which I know I'll live. Now he could have honestly gone into Goodra, and that would have kind of messed me over a little bit. But I guess he was fearing the Draco Meteor, which I wasn't gonna go for because it does have a chance to miss. And he does live, which was unfortunate. And I do get the Omni Boost, which is great. And I was trying to finesse him. I was like, yo, man, you better hope I don't let speed, which I know Arcanine can. He goes for the Extreme Speed, and I went for the very risky play of switching out into my Ferrothorn just to get that Iron Barbs damage and Rocky Helmet. Because if he went for the Flare Blitz, honestly, I have no other switch in for that Beedrill, and that would have pretty much been game. because I really need this for that Beedrill. So I switch out again because I know Goodra can get a fire move, and I go out into my Ninny-Muggin. My plan with this thing was to take a move and endeavor it. This was a really cool set. I actually had a Focus Sash on this thing. It had Endeavor, it had Toxic, and it had Moonblast. Or actually, I think it had Encore as well. I said, okay, so it has Encore as well. So that really messed up a lot of teams, especially flying teams, because they decided, I don't know why, but they wanted to set up on my Ninny-Muggin. And I was like, nah. So they would set up and I would Encore, and then I would proceed to just slowly whittle them down to the point where they would just rage quit. So I thought this was a really fun set. I really do highly suggest using it. He decides to go into Juvia. Now, the thing about this thing, about the Olomola that he has, is it is very useful, but unfortunately he thinks that it's not very useful at all. Because of his Goodra, it deters me from going for a grass move, and this thing honestly could take on all my mons, in my mind at least, especially without a Venusaur. So I decided I wanted to Toxic it. I decided to risk the chance of him having Ice Beam, just because I needed a little bit more damage on myself, just so I can endeavor the Goodra. And I go straight into my Serperior, which in my eyes, for this specific battle, was pretty useless, to be honest. The only useful thing that the Serperior had on it was the Glare, which I used to lock this Juvia into place. I really don't want it to switch out, get the Regenerator. I don't want it to switch out and, you know, get a Wish Off. I was gonna just sit here and Glare, because his 3 mons outspeed most of my mons. It was his Goodra, his Greninja, and also his Beedrill, and I knew he didn't really want to switch into that, especially since he thought that Juvia was pretty useless for this match. So I sat there just glaring until it died, and I believe, you know, honestly, for something that really wasn't useful, Serperior was a really cool mon to have, just to trap Pokemon. This Serperior is a special attacking Serperior, I believe, with Glare, Leaf Storm, HP, Rock, I think, or Fire. I can't really remember which one. And it also had Defog. There's not really a lot of hazard removal options, and I decided that Serperior was the coolest one, so I was like, definitely gonna take that one. So I decided to take this opportunity to go into my Order 66. I really didn't have any use for it. It doesn't really outspeed anything, and I'm almost 100% expecting this Greninja to be Scarfed. The only reason I would expect that is because, honestly, John knows my whole team, and he knows for a fact that this Bulu that's coming in is Scarfed. So I have this Scarfed Bulu just for Pokemon such as Charizard Y and Volcarona. It has Rock Tomb, so it can slow it down if they try to set up as well, and or OHKO it. It doesn't really matter. But anyways, he goes for the Ice Beam, and I do live, thankfully, but I do get frozen, and I was like freaking out. I threw my Stylus across the way, but thankfully I thawed out, and my superpower does kill this Greninja. I was like, thank goodness. I was so salty at that point, but thankfully I thawed out, which honestly I don't really know if that really happens a lot or anything. Usually when you get frozen, it's basically that Pokemon's basically useless. So I'm really thankful that I thawed out immediately. But he does go into Goodra, and I'm like, I don't really have anything for this. I go into my Genesis to basically let it die, and also get the Glare off. I'm hoping to get some hacks, even though I basically evaded some hacks earlier. I was like, well, maybe again, you know, maybe this battle's going for me, you know, it's on my side. But yeah, so I go for Glare. At this point, I'm like, okay, I have a plan of action. So I'm gonna bring in my Ninny-Muggin, and I'm gonna do Endeavor, right, to bring it down to red. It's gonna kill my Ninny-Muggin, and I'm gonna switch out into my Bulu, and then I'm gonna kill that, and then I'm like, well, hopefully I can outspeed the Mega Beedrill. So I go into my Ninny-Muggin here, which again is a really cool set. I was really happy with how this performed. especially over on paper. I was like, maybe it'll do well, maybe it'll suck. But anyways, so he goes for a flamethrower, and he does break through the paralysis, which kind of sucks, but at the same time I was okay with, because I'm going to bring in my Bulu. I was like kind of thinking like, well, if I can outspeed the Beedrill, I should go for Rock Tomb. And I was like, I don't really know if this is going to survive, or I don't know if this is going to kill, so I just went for the superpower. I was like, oh, who cares? Anyways, so he does die, thankfully, and I do have my defenses lowered, and I was like, okay, so how am I going to combat this Beedrill, because it is the last thing on his team. And I was like, oh, I don't really know what to do with it. Thankfully, well, I actually forgot I had rocks, and I was like, okay, well, all I have to do now is switch into my Ferrothorn. So I do just that, and he goes for Fellstinger for his last move, or his last ditch effort, and that's going to be a good game, John. So I was really proud with how I battled, because honestly, I didn't have any chance to prep for this team, and the team he brought was the team I've always lost to. So I was like, oh wow, this is justice, because I always lose to this team. I've probably lost at least 6 times. So I'm sitting here like, no one beats me 7 times in a row. You know what I mean? So I'm really excited. John, great game, man. I'm going to put his information in the description. I hope you guys check him out, and I hope you guys say hello for me. And have a great day, guys.